Lydia, for the final part. Now, racing and gambling for most people are synonymous, but every now and again, racing or a big figure in racing appears to try and distance themselves from betting, but they don't seem to have a plan B. Do you think that the former could survive without the latter?
No, I don't at all. I mean, for many people, I do think this is partly to do with snobbery about betting. For many people, as I said earlier, having a bet on a horse is an expression of their understanding of horse racing. That's what it is. Their interest in horse racing. They don't ride. They haven't got enough money to own a horse. They will go racing, but that bet is an expression of their interest in the sport. And why would we be sneering about that? I don't get it. And I'm perfectly happy. I think racing can be a broad church. If you're interested in racing because you like following the development of horse from a bloodstock perspective, and that's all you're interested in, welcome. If you are interested in betting on horses because that shows your understanding of what a horse is and what horse racing is, welcome. What is the problem? Why can't we be catering for everybody? A well-known trainer was saying to one of the racing TV producers recently that we concentrate too much on betting. I really don't think we do. I mean, it would be a disservice not to talk about betting, because a lot of people who tune in and watch racing TV, and probably the majority of them, do want to know what's happening in the betting market. It doesn't mean they've had a bet in that race. Loads of them will have done, but they want to understand. And it also, that collective crowd knowledge thing, that tells you something. The market is telling you something as well, which is also interesting if you want to open your mind to the wider ramifications of it. So I find it frustrating that racing needs to be one thing or another. It doesn't have to be. One of the whole points about racing is there are lots of different ways to get into it, and I don't think we should be turning anyone away for their particular way of getting into horse racing.
And just as an aside, one of the things that I heard recently was that it's obscene that they sort of highlight people having big bets on races when there's people at home that can't, sort of boil their kettle or something.
Yes.
I mean, but surely the horse racing, but by the very nature, so rich people are involved. The horses running around more than most people earn in 10 years, possibly. So how do you feel about that? Should people be shielded from knowing that some people bet 10 grand on a horse? Or whatever?
I don't think so. At the same time, I don't really feel that people betting that kind of money should be glorified in any kind of way. I mean, it just is, So they have more money than other people. Any sort of flashiness involved to do with that, and any sort of glorification, I think is probably just daft anyway. I mean, it's just it. I don't know. It doesn't. You can probably tell it doesn't impress me much. But
I was thinking of a phrase that's often used on social media.
I mean, to some people, £1,000 is what £10 or £1 would be to other people. We all have to accept that our money is proportionate to our income, isn't it? So, and I definitely understand that. And I think it's a bit, people are too easily or seem to wish to be offended these days about something. That said, if you do have a lot of money at the moment, I think you should be aware of how many people are struggling and are going to increasingly struggle to be able to fulfill their own basic needs. So, I think that's a very complicated question, and I suppose I'd have to see the individual example that you were citing to decide whether or not I found that appropriate or not appropriate. But yeah, those are lots of different random thoughts in response to your question.
Now, you started with print journalism,
Yeah,
and then in inverted commas progressed to TV. Do you see that as a progression?
no, not at all. No, there's just different forms of journalism. I think in my head at the time maybe there was a connection between working for BBC Racing or Channel 4 Racing and having achieved being successful. But then I had to very quickly realise that the other people. How should I put this? Well, I don't think I was ready for terrestrial television at the time that I was doing it. So I don't think I was confident enough. I think I wasn't competent enough. At the same time, I think it was a very exacting, cutthroat environment, not at all supportive. I was about to say not particularly supportive, not at all supportive. Very difficult to progress in if you felt that you were different, if you were facing some challenges, which I certainly was at the time, because I think I was perceived as being a little bit different within the sport at that point. So that was challenging, I think. But as it turned out, the way in which sort of terrestrial TV has developed, and this is nothing against it, as I've said already, I think it's right that it adjusts how it talks to its audience. But I also came to understand that that wasn't really for me, certainly in terms of television broadcasting. I didn't find it satisfying to speak for 90 seconds about something and be wrapped up after second 59. I preferred lengthier, deeper conversations about things, and the medium of racing TV enables us to do that a lot better, and the medium of print journalism enables us to do that a lot better, and I find that suits me particularly. So that's not a comment on anyone else or anyone else's work. I'm just talking about me and what I find stimulating, because there's no point in doing a job, I think, unless you're actually finding it stimulating and getting, well, that's not right. For me, there is no point in doing a job unless there is you're getting something stimulating out of it, that it's actually something that you are engaged with and enjoying.
Okay, no, just an assumption, but I'm guessing in those early days you needed real mettle and determination, because it was a fairly male-dominated environment you found yourself in.
Yes, it was. And it could be quite unfriendly at times, I think. And there's certainly some instances that I would class as unpleasant. So yeah, I suppose I probably did. It helps when that you're young, because you keep driving forward anyway, and as you get older, I think you look back and you think, would I have been able to do that now? At the same time, as you get older, you get more experience and a wider view on things. But yeah, there have been times when it's been really quite difficult, it has been difficult at times.
Right, well, you've come out the other side of that. Obviously, experienced person, you've been in it for a long time now. So it's very established, and I assume you don't have a problem sort of selling your work. But I've read that you said that free content results in something being undervalued. That's undoubtedly true for somebody like you. But where does somebody that wants to be like you, I mean, do they refuse to do something for free to show their talents, or?
I think it's important. I mean, as I said, I'm a freelancer. I think too many people put the emphasis on the first syllable, and I think it's part of the solidarity of this profession that it is beholden on those of us who can charge to charge, actually, because this job requires some expertise. It requires ability and hard work, and it should be remunerated accordingly, and that should mean that when you move into being able to be paid for your work, that is the kind of reward that you should expect. This is against the backdrop of increasingly, free content. It used to be free content. I'm not sure what free content is these days. I mean, quite often what appears to be free content is actually paid for in some kind of way. So I should put that caveat in. But yeah, when you're starting out, when I started out, as I said, I did work experience. So I did work experience for 4 months. I did 4 months at the Sporting Life, and I essentially got paid expenses. I think I got 50 quid a week. I think I did. And maybe some expenses at the top. I can't remember, it's such a long time ago, but it certainly wasn't a living wage. So I had to finance myself to do that. And then I worked for a news agency called Race News. And again, I lived in Bedford at the time, and my total salary was, if I'd have had to, I mean, we meant to start work at 9:30. Had I got into 9:30, my rail fare for the year would have been more than my total salary. So, you know, when you're starting off, you're having to make some financial sacrifices, some financial judgments. I mean, I got into debt early on in my career, and was able to happily get out of it fairly quickly once I started working for the Evening Standard. I think it's financially, young people are in a much more difficult situation now. They'll have racked up a lot more debt while they've been at university, so it's much more challenging. And obviously the cost of living at the moment is going up massively. So I think that's a really difficult environment for them to be trying to get on. And as you point out at the start, people will be trying to get some work experience and working for free, or and increasingly you have internships, don't you, which are essentially, you know, the risk of those is that they're just cheap workforce. So yeah, I think people should always be, you need to get a foot in the door, but you also need to be aware that you're doing work, you should be paid for that work, and the more valuable you become, the more you should value yourself and be paid accordingly. But you know, I think the best way to do that tends to be to unionise.
Take notice, Benji. So we're coming to the end now, but if you were starting out now, would your ambition for your, I'm assuming your main job income-wise is TV, but I don't know, I'm assuming that. Would that be your ambition, to be a TV presenter, or what aspect?
I don't think of myself as a TV presenter, if I'm honest. I feel like I'm, you know, this probably sounds quite poncy, but I think I'm a journalist who works in television and print media, or online media, as it would be these times. I primarily, I think of myself as a journalist. That obviously involves presenting television. It also involves interviewing. It involves writing. I don't really sort of think of myself that way, and I mean, I probably enjoy writing more than I do television. I do enjoy television, but I like the fact that I do lots of different things within my job. And is TV presenting my main job? Just about, but it's I've got quite a varied portfolio, which it took me a long time to build up, and I worked very hard to do so. And I did want lots of different strings to my bow, you know, things that I could do, and I did that quite deliberately. So I like that variety of things.
Okay, and finally, what does the future you hope for professionally look like?
Me? For me? I, as I said earlier, I don't really think about it. I genuinely don't. You know, right from the very start when I was at university doing English, all I knew was that I didn't want to just go back home. I had a taste of the independent life, and I just wanted to keep going. So I wrote and got some work experience from the Sporting Life, and tumbled from one thing into another, from the Sporting Life into being the correspondent of the Evening Standard, being a columnist for the Times, at the original At the Races startup team, racing TV, you know, a bit of Channel 4 and BBC. But you know, one thing kind of led to another, really. I didn't ever really stop. The only time I ever stopped and tried to be strategic about it was when as I said, this would be about 8 years ago, not 10 years ago now maybe, I strategically, deliberately decided to take a step back and make sure that I had a wide range of things that I could do, because I was too used to lots of them going wrong. And if you've only got 3 and 2 of them suddenly disappear, then you've only got 1 and you're in trouble. Whereas if you've got lots of different things in your portfolio, there's lots of different things that you can do. So I've got a totally open mind about what I will do next, and I haven't got any specific ambition.
Brilliant. Well, we'll all be watching intently, I'm sure.
Oh,
Lydia Hislop, thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.